Mistfall Hunter just launched into its open beta for the next couple days, and I got a chance to get a good chunk of time playing. So I want to give you my impressions and what I overall feel about the game. In my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge of my videos, let me tell you that I'm very excited for the end of July when this game launches. I think there are definitely issues with performance. There are definitely some issues that I'm seeing with possible class balancing, but other than that, I've really enjoyed the way the game feels. I enjoy the actual diversity from class to class, and I enjoy a lot of the overall feel of the gameplay. A lot of people have compared this to a Dark Souls or an Elden Ring extraction shooter. It's not really. It plays a little bit more in line with the Lords of the Fallen, which has a slightly more arcadey feel, but a feel that is still in line with that Dark Souls kind of grittier, hard combat. I don't want you to jump into this and feel like you're going to be playing a Dark Souls. There's no parrying here. It's all about dodging and trying to get attacks on target. So my ultimate thing is I'm stoked for the game, and I am excited for the Harpies. So that's my too long didn't watch this entire video. So if that's all you wanted to know, feel free to go ahead and shut the video down. But let me get into the things that I really enjoy about this game first. Loading into the game, let's talk about the things that I was really enjoying with Mistfall Hunter. So for starters, we get 6 classes. And what's nice about this game is you're going to create a character and you'll be able to choose one of these classes. After you do that though, you can immediately swap out any of them at level 1, at level 50, it doesn't matter. And what you should think about is you're not leveling up a character, you're leveling up an account. So that means that, like, hey, if I've gotten level 40 on my mercenary, I switch class, I'm level 40 on whatever other class I want to do. So right now, my character is currently set to a Shadow Strix. Let's go ahead and switch on over to a Withered Knight, one of my other favorite classes. Now, this cost required is 0 right now, and I think it's just because it's in the beta. But you can see here that if you do that, it has a corresponding Gelden Blood, which is just your gold cost, and then a cooldown of 3 minutes. But during this window, you can revert to your previous class for free, ignoring the cooldown. So let's just say I play the Withered Knight and the Black Arrow or the Shadow Strix, whatever 2 classes, those are the ones that you main. You can freely bounce between them from match to match if you want. You don't have to worry about the cooldown. I don't know how that cooldown expands into the actual game. I'm sure this is just for a beta. It's been set this way to be easy to swap from class to class, but this makes it so I press this button and boom, my character comes out with just a basic set of armor that I can jump into the game with. So this is a nice way to feel like you're not locked into a character class and you can play around. And from there too, your character has lots of skills that they unlock. Every single character class has tons of skills within it. For example, too, we're looking right now at, what is this guy? This is the Withered Knight, right? But okay, the Shadow Strix, you can either choose dual blade or 1 dagger. For the mercenary, you can choose sword and shield or a hammer. For your sorcerer, you can't really tell, but you've got 2 different types of magic you can use. The seer's got 2 different types of character it can even be. So this represents itself in the skills. You choose different skills. You know, it's funny is this is actually probably the flattest character when it comes to skill selection. It's very straightforward. But further, then you increase the skill choice you've made per character with your talents. And their talents are pretty easy, right? Like, okay, great sword, core archetype, boom. This is all just your great sword capabilities. Or you know what? I really want to use better breakthrough charge enhancements. Okay, or Radiant Retribution. Those are corresponding skill names. Radiant Retribution. You saw, where was the charge one? Right here? No, right here? Yeah, breakthrough charge right there, right? So you're enhancing specifically what it is. There's no guesswork here. There's nothing crazy. And it's a pretty linear path. I've got 3 points. Well, it's 1, 2, 3 points, and it locks out the other side. So it's a real easy way to flex around, and I don't need to go pay for a respec. I just go ahead and reset the talents. See, we just jump out of that screen, go back into that screen, press R to reset my talents. Doesn't cost, and again, that might be a beta feature, but still, it's very cut and dry. It's very easy to make a build on the fly. You don't have to get lost in the weeds and the percentages or anything. And what's nice too is a lot of these abilities for every single character, they will really evolve how that character plays. Like, okay, this makes it so my ability that I affix onto enemies will no longer explode. Instead, it triggers an area explosion after a brief delay with increased damage. Okay, well now it reapplies Wither to anyone who's been a subject of that explosion, and now it automatically executes itself when its duration ends. So you have all these ways to evolve the character with its talents to have a lot of fun. Like, for example, the stealth ability for the Shadow Strix, you can make it so that every time you use your stealth ability, it just puts you back into stealth for more crit damage. It's really cool. And one thing too I really like about this game is this victory wine section.
Pawn record has quite a
Yes, of course it does. So we go here, we go to victory wine. Well, this is just the very first one. I can go ahead, and this is a buff that I give my character at the very beginning before I jump into an actual match. So I've got all these attack, defense, and functional buffs. It breaks down like, here's some recommended ones that kind of play with how your character plays. Well, I can go ahead and say, hey, you know what? I want smiting for critical hits, or I want burst for damage of Withered Knight's Withered Execution, or wrath here. So my health is below 50%, I get more damage. And you can see that I'm adding an affix. These affixes have levels. Pretty elaborate looking, right? It's not. I'll show you. So I go ahead and press confirm here. So you drink the beverage, cannot be changed until you complete an exploration. So basically go do a mission and you can do this again. So that gives us 2 sets of affixes. Jumping back to our inventory, we have attributes and affixes. I click this, I go to affixes. You can see those 2 affixes are now present on me, and I can use items here that might have affixes on them. That puts stoic on me. Stoic is not a word. Wealth here, or maybe I want Aegis. You can just kind of put on different ones that give you different affixes. This has got smiting, this has got wrath. Well, we don't have either of those. Damn, I thought we had one of them. You'd probably want to do this before you yeah, we already have Valor, so now Valor's at level 2, and we get 3% attack. So you can play around with these affixes on your items and add them further. Or you get something like this, where there is no actual slot in it, and I can add an affix of my own. Okay, this gives me Tenacious. So it gives me a lot of really fun granularity in the way that I want to approach the character, from building out the skills, from building out the talents, from building out my gear, from being able to really kind of piece all these things together. And I haven't even gotten into the actual gameplay on the map. And you can further too use loadouts here and kind of swap through recommended loadouts that you can buy if you've got the necessary gold for it. It's a pretty sweet system. And if I jump over back to my warehouse, you can use combat bags. So if you're familiar with Arc Raiders, you know how you can use like a fabricated loadout? Well, same thing here. You just have to find these bags either by doing scavenge missions or by setting yourself up by finding them in missions. So there are just a bunch of different pre-fabbed loadouts that just pop you in ready to go. And I really like it because it takes a lot of the guesswork out of setting up your character. You're able to jump in and just have fun. Another thing I really like about the camp is being able to just simply upgrade it. And that is something that is really great about Arc Raiders. It's something that's really fun about playing Escape from Tarkov. It gives you ownership of your camp, and it also gives you kind of a resource dump for all these resources that you find throughout the game. Okay, well, hey, we got all these things. Go ahead and do that. And that went ahead and upgraded it. So that is just one of the things that I really like too, is because when you feel like you have that ownership, I think it really creates a better bond to your game. And as just kind of an aside, they're doing this event right here. If you find these ciphers throughout the game world, you can have a chance to just win the deluxe edition of the game or the standard edition of the game. That's a pretty cool way to, like, yeah, come play our beta for, you know, this amount of time and just have a chance to win it. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. So let me jump actually into a match and show some things that I like about PvE. So we're in a match real quick, and just to kind of talk about something that I really enjoy here too is, here's your map. This is just the intro map. There's 2 maps that are active in the beta. You can see here, you've got your extraction points, which are these. And down here, then you've got this. This is your actual objective for your main quest, your journey. But you'll also notice too, some exploration tasks. And on these, you'll also notice, I don't think I can actually lay out, you'll get rewards that are pretty significant rewards that are used for upgrades, maybe they're items, whatever it is. So it gives you an incentive to do these maps over and over, because you know exactly, like, hey, if I go over here, there's a big chest that I can open up, and that treasure is going to be something nice. And an enriched resource zone is a resource zone that contains extremely valuable treasures. So you've got all those things attached to it. But further, you've got bosses like this, or you've got the Lord right here, who I've actually never dealt with. Also, you can't see them on the map, but there's elites. So there's a lot of variety to the monsters. It's not just simply chaff and then the big monsters you got to kill. So it does create a very fun dynamic when you're just going through the PVM portion of it before you actually get into some PvP. So with all those good things being said, though, what are some of the bad things with this game? And there are some, right? Like this is still a beta. And with that, the biggest elephant in the room is performance. They've already said that they're going to be rolling out some performance patches coming up here soon. And they've said that any of the stuttering that you do feel, it's because basically it sounds like it's a shader issue. Once you go through a location you've never been before, it loads the shaders. And once you go through again, that stuttering stops. That has been my experience. Anything that was stuttering no longer stutters when I go there. But your mileage may vary. Are you on a console, Xbox, PS5, PS5 Pro? All those things are going to be factors in your experience of the performance. PC too, across every little piece of hardware is going to dictate how performance feels for you. For me, it's been great. I haven't had any crashes. Aside from those stuttering issues as I come into new areas, it's been fine. But I have a ridiculous computer, so do not compare your experience to my experience because they're probably going to be different. Make sure your drivers are up to date. I'll definitely say that. I've heard that playing in full screen and using NVIDIA Boost both help out. But those seem to be the biggest things when it comes to performance, is getting a stable frames per second, depending on what you're using. Now, that's the elephant in the room. Outside of that, though, I'm level 6, level 7. I think I just got level 7 a little bit ago. And in that, the player population for solo queue is not particularly high. I've experienced at least one player per queue, which is actually not that bad. To be fair, though, I'm only playing alone. I don't know what trios mode is like. And from some of the Twitch streamers that I've watched to get the Twitch drops, I've seen that trios mode on higher levels is actually very active. It seems like there's lots of people playing, but it just seems you have to be in trio mode. That's again been my personal experience of the matter. But on solo queue at lower levels, it seems to be quite low. They even said on lower levels, we're trying to reduce the chance of you going in with AI. So it looks like you do have bots that spawn in you on the low level base map. There's 2 maps that are active. Hollow Grove is the first map, and that's either solo or trios. And the second map is only trios. So I think that's the more active map. Now, in addition to that, as we spoke about AI, the enemy AI is not an issue overall because it's actually very good and it's diverse and it baits out lots of dodges on you. The backswing on attacks hit you, so you have to not just kind of dodge blindly. You have to be very clever about how you dodge. So I actually very much like how the way the enemy AI works and the way it pressures you in combat situations. But I will say that the enemy AI, when it comes to using any kind of ranged ability, it's just really easy to telegraph and it's very wonky. I've noticed that any of the elites or bosses and their spells, it's very easy just to dodge them by doing the old Skyrim left, right, and the thing will just wildly shoot it right or wildly shoot it left, and you can easily dodge it. And even following through with that, their abilities just sometimes will miss you if you're not even really paying that much attention to it. So that is something that is easily tweakable, but in Melee, they put some good pressure on it. It's quite fun. I don't look at the enemy AI beyond the chaff things, like just your basic kind of wandering enemy, as something to be taken lightly, which I think is good. You need loadouts for the harder things, and that feels good. Kind of the way Arc Raiders does, right? Arc Raiders, yeah, you can kill all the basic stuff with your basic load-in, loadout, but if you want to fight any of the bigger stuff, you need to have a pretty set plan to do it. And I actually really can appreciate that. Now, in addition to, I do have a bit of a problem with the ranged PvP. And I have very limited experience here, so again, your mileage may vary. The only real time I struggled with a PvP match in that it was a weird game mechanic feel was when I was playing a sorcerer against a ranger. Both of the characters, myself and the enemy, felt very, not teleporty, but very rubber bandy. So I was a little worried about that because honestly, on both characters, they're more skill shot oriented shots. You don't have much tracking. So I'm going to say that I think it's like 25, 50% server side issue, 75% skill issue, because it's definitely way hard to hit things if you're first coming into the ranged classes in this game. And that was the one that had the worst experience with, because I felt like they were warping around a little bit. And one of the last things in this section here I want to talk about that I have just an issue with these games in general. I think that Arc Raiders feels really good. Hunt Showdown, I've got hundreds of hours in Hunt Showdown. Feels really good. I've played Tarkov ad infinitum. Feels really good. Dark and Darker ran into a really bad balance issue, and I'm afraid this game might have that too. We don't know yet. It's beta. Nothing's really balanced. I don't even think that the Withered Knight is complete, because the Withered Knight only can play as one set kind of skill path. So I think there's going to be a secondary one for it. But, and correct me if you're wrong, maybe you guys know that from following through with the game more closely, and I have not been personally. So that is something I'm worried about. And as it extends to class balance, one of the biggest things with these games in general, dark fantasy, extraction, quote unquote shooters, is that with the class balance getting thrown out of loop, you also have loadout balance causing a huge disparity. So what was happening, especially in Dark and Darker, was that people would get just really good items and then go down queue, basically. They'd go queue into like the beginner area and just farm people, and it was like a seal clubbing. It was really, really brutal. And it made playing really hard because you couldn't get up to a high enough level to compete, and you couldn't compete with them unless they were wounded. So that is something that I do worry about, because you can't use like real money or anything to buy like really good armor. But if you just play the game enough, you'll get currency to buy one of those set loadouts, and then you just go to town on stuff. Of course, you'll lose it if you die, but still, that's some of the concerns I have about the game so far. So we did about like 8 minutes of a section on what I like about it. I figure 6.5 is pretty fair to tell you about the things that I think are some red flags, or at least things that are giving me pause about the game. So in this next section, I want to give you just a quick primer on all 6 of the classes, so you know what it's kind of like jumping into each one. And we'll start with the Mercenary, which is one of my favorite classes. And really, it's very fun. It's a very classic sword and board style of warrior, but you also have an alternate play style of using a hammer. So it's really fun that you get to be very versatile, and you don't have to change your skills or anything. You simply press the one button and you switch over to your hammer, and your hammer skills become active. So you get to choose how those talents are allocated, and this is true for every single class. So the Mercenary is the only class that actually has a true parry too through one of its skills with the sword and shield. So it's very versatile. You have to be very mobile with the sword and shield and have a lot of really great defensive capabilities, or be very upfront, very jumpy. You can not necessarily leap, but you have a lot of big traversal capabilities with the hammer. And however you want to split it is what you get with the Mercenary. Sorcerer here is probably my least favorite, to be totally honest. I didn't really jive with it as much because I really struggle with range classes in games like this, which is going to be weird based off of what I say about the Black Arrow next. But with the Sorcerer, you get to choose between, I think it's elemental or spirit magic, I believe. And it's basically choosing, do I be a classic wizard or more of a druid? Classic elemental style of, fire or lightning, or a druid that I get to use earth and cold and like gravity. So you choose those different abilities. Sorcerer gets tons of skills to leverage, and then a general skill line. So lots of different spells. You get to shoot at people, you get to shoot at the ground, or you get to create these things that go onto the ground and hurt people and do different things with that. Next up is the Black Arrow, which is another one of my favorites. And the Black Arrow is a range class, I know what I said, but you have all these different arrows you get to choose with the Black Arrow, which is really cool. You have to, hey, this is an arrow that pierces so I can do more damage in PVM, or hey, this is an arrow that will do poison damage, or this is an arrow that has these little flies that attack things. So you have a lot of different ways to play the class by simply pressing a button on top of its existing skills. So you get a very fun, diverse way of playing, and it's also more of a skill shot style of class. If you hit someone in the head, you critical hit. So it's about trying to aim those critical hits, and that is part of the skill of the class, but it's also very crunchy and rewarding to get those big crits in when you headshot someone. Next is the Shadow Strix, and this was the class I played last, and I thought I was gonna hate it. I ended up loving it. It was really cool. I'm not really much of a stealth gamer. I'm not terribly good at it, but the way that they do stealth in Mistfall Hunter is really good. The way that you do it is you jump into stealth and you attack someone, and it's not like a typical rogue where, hey, if you miss that backstab, you just can't do the damage, you're not going to compete. Nay, it's really fun here because you can have it so that your talent setup is you hit someone with a backstab and you keep doing damage. As long as you keep doing damage to them, you go back into a stealth to do another backstab. And the backstabs are a critical hit, but they're not these huge, oh, you just took 50% of their health away. So you have more damage vehicles that are allowed to you with the Shadow Strix that's not just simply locked into stealthing, which is very cool. And at any point, you can switch from just using one dagger to 2 swords, and you just become this blade singer going so fast, just ripping and gripping through everything. So if you miss your backstab, boom, pop into the 2 swords and go to town. It highly depends on how you want to play it. Seer is another class too that is very similar to the Sorcerer in that you're going to be a caster, but it's also not similar to the Sorcerer at all. You get to choose between either being devout or renouncing your oath and becoming a fervent, I believe it is, and a zealot more or less. So you get to choose basically being a cleric, and you get to use support skills, a lot of heals, a lot of shields, get to bind people in place so they have to struggle away from it. So you kind of control the battlefield by being a support caster and more of a CC or crowd control caster. Or you forsake your oath and you start becoming a mace wielding zealot that can do tons of damage. And that damage can also be kind of enhanced to draw life from someone, to prevent them from healing, to root them in place, to slow them down. It is a real high skill floor and even higher skill ceiling class. I think Seer is one of the most interesting classes of the entire list, and it is really fun to play, but it's really hard to kind of get your mind around how both classes play because they're both so different within just one class, and that's what makes it so unique. And I think it's the one that's really going to take off once people really learn it. Last but not least is probably my favorite, the Withered Knight. Now the Withered Knight is kind of like a Death Knight. It's like a Spellblade style of character. You're going to be using a 2-handed sword. I think that there's more coming for the Withered Knight as far as like skill sets, because it seems to be the most bare bones compared to all of them. And if you've ever played For Honor, it plays very similar to a Crusader in its attack patterns. But essentially the gameplay loop of the Withered Knight is using your big, huge claymore, your 2-handed sword, to affix a wither on someone. And then you use a power attack to explode that wither or do all sorts of things as you augment the wither through all the talents. So it's a really fun class. It's extremely durable too in different ways than the Mercenary. They just have very high tanky AC and they're really fun to play. And it's really cool to just charge across the battlefield and slam someone in the face with a 2-handed sword. There is one thing I forgot. I'm adding this after the fact. I went to go edit and saw that I didn't do this. A big thing in this game outside of the performance that I have a big problem with is extraction. So I'm going to press play. This is a 1:09 clip that I shadow played, and you'll see how this works. We get a Hollow Grove Woodling has to be summoned. So we see this thing on the map. You can see there's a big circle in that upper right-hand corner. This thing can spawn anywhere within that circle. So we follow this little light, and it will lead us to the location that it spawns, kill some enemies. You can see it's counting down right there. It's going to spawn in 10 seconds. No one else can see that but me as far as where it is on the map. If they see it in person, they can go ahead and take it. So, okay, this thing's about to spawn here. Nothing here. Cool, yeah. Who needs trousers, man? Let's extract. So this little guy pops out. Well, then you kill this thing, and it just kind of dances around and cavorts all over the place. It's dead, and then it drops this tree. Anyone can access this tree. It's got 3 little bells on it. Press H, you ring your bell, and then a portal pops up. And then you have to hold extract on the portal. So there's 4 steps. It just is an unnecessary amount of steps. It's my biggest point of critical feedback about the actual gameplay that I think really needs to be, changed before the game goes live, or at least modified. I don't think, okay, if you want to have, summon the tree, it summons this little dancing woodling. Okay, I'm okay with that portion. That's kind of unique. It's a different way to do it. It gives people around here a chance to find me. What I think they should do is, rather than having this countdown and then it summons the woodling, the whole point of it is that there's a random woodling on the map that summons. Rather than have that happen, just have the tree sprout up here. Make this a longer time, 45 seconds. And then the tree sprouts up. Rather than me having to kill this thing and then access the tree by ringing by ringing a bell, and then access the portal. I get it, that if you kill someone during this stage, you can get their bell and then you can take the bell and take the portal. I get that that's a thing, but I think that it just creates too many unnecessary steps and it makes extracting kind of tedious when I know the point of it is to be unique. So I think it just needs 1 or 2 steps less, or like I said, just make the woodling be the actual tree that sprouts up in 45 seconds. So you have, someone has a better chance of actually finding you. It's hard to find someone once they've actually activated this, unless you're already in the ring. So that's my big, I guess, additional point of contention with the game. We've gone through the good, we've gone through the bad, I've told you about all the classes. What's my ultimate take on it? And I think truly I'm really excited for the end of July. I didn't even know that this game was coming this fast at the Summer Game Fest or whenever this was revealed. I jumped on it and I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed it. And like I said in the intro, a lot of people say this is like a Dark Souls extraction shooter. It's not really. It doesn't play like a Dark Souls or an Elden Ring do. It plays similar feeling to Lords of the Fallen. It has that Lords of the Fallen feel, that kind of more action-y adventure feel, and less of like, there's a certain methodical pacing of any of the From Software games. This game feels a lot more action arcadey style almost. Again, I think For Honor is a very similar comparison too. It's not like Dark and Darker. Dark and Darker is very methodically slow, intentionally very slow. This game, a lot more, not more faster paced, because that's not how that syntax works. It is a faster paced game. And with it too, I like the engagements. They feel more fun. They don't feel as locked in as Dark and Darker felt. Dark and Darker always felt if you didn't get the alpha strike on, you just probably weren't going to be able to get the momentum back to win. And you really had to be clever about your placement. This is a lot more frenetic and a lot more hectic, but a lot more enjoyable. Personally, as for me, I'm just a fast-paced gamer. I enjoy that kind of frantic in my face style of play, but I don't think it gets away from me. I don't think I need to be cracked out on like gamer pre-workout to play this game. I'm just fine playing it and having a good time. And I like that I can play trios with friends or queue up solo into trios. I like the functionality. Again, I like being able to build out my camp. Like I said, having ONUS on your camp, I think is a really important thing for an extraction shooter, because it makes you feel like there's more going on outside of just the maps. I'm stoked for the 26th. I'm stoked to see too if there's future roles planned for more classes, more expansions upon the systems that are existing. So I think for all the things that are bad about the game, because they're there, you know, I think we talked a good chunk about the things that I'm worried about, the things that other games in this genre have fallen to pitfall wise, right? I think that there's enough strong legs, good bones, whatever kind of stupid axiom I want to use, that gives me enough faith to say that this is probably going to be worth it come the 26th. If they were to release tomorrow, the biggest concern I would have would be stability, performance stability. And they've got now a whole month and a half to improve upon it, and they might improve upon it by the end of this beta here. And I think that's pretty huge. So we'll see what it's like come, you know, June 22nd when the beta ends, or June 21st actually, to hopefully have a more stable experience. A lot of the other things I talked about, AI for the enemy's abilities, patched away very easily. I am worried about class balancing, which you can balance in a patch, but if you don't get it right enough at launch, you lose momentum. And that's always what I worry about with games like this. Losing momentum at the beginning, and it just ends up becoming an obscure cult title that 5,000 people a month play. You know what I mean? So those are some of my likes. Those are some of my dislikes. Those are the things that I'm excited for. Those are the things I'm worried about. What about you? Have you played Mistfall Hunter? What's been your experience? Are you playing on console and it sucks? Are you playing on console and it's great? Are you playing on PC? Give me some indication. Help people out that are trying to get into this game and they don't know if their system, their consoles can play it. Help give your experience so people have a good bearing of what's coming. But like I said before, very excited about the game. Thank you so much for watching here today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. Each one of those things helps me in a huge way. And don't forget to check my Discord out in the link below. This way you can be up to date whenever I go live, whenever I post a video, and whenever I do content polls for future content. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.